Good morning, Highland. I hope that you all are well. I am coming to you from my back porch this morning. If the connection is not good, let me know. We can be flexible, we can go inside, but it is so beautiful this morning that I figured that I would try to at least be outside. We have this backyard that we love. It's not that big actually right behind me, but one of the things that we love the most about it is the fact that back here with all of these trees, especially as the leaves are coming in, we feel alone. We feel like we have our own little section of land even while we're inside 264. And so anyway, it's something that we love about our house. So I'm back here. Our oldest is on a Google Meet. I bribed our younger two to watch the Lego movie on TV for a moment. Please send me blessings when I try to transition them from that into their homework, which will likely not go very well. Today is Wednesday, and specifically it being April 22nd, it means that it is Professional Administrative Day, Administrative Professionals Day, something like that. So I want to take a moment to appreciate Highlands support staff, some of whom might be listening right now. I want you to know that I am grateful for every single one of them. I miss them. Andrea, whose consistency is the backbone of our office, who knows so much and is able to do so much. I am grateful for Jerry and Frank, who help clean our building. I am grateful for Linda Campbell, who helps our children's ministry run seamlessly, for Lauren Blackwell, who helps recruit and equip and coordinate all of our volunteers. I am grateful for Walter McWhorter, our church administrator, who makes sure that everything continues to run smoothly, which is pretty remarkable in a moment like this. I am grateful for Kathleen. Did I mention Kathleen, our new financial secretary, who is wonderful? I hate that she joined us and then so quickly all of this began. And therefore we're not with her right now, but still I'm grateful for all those who help Highland be able to serve and to be the church that it is. And so anyway, I'm grateful for all those people, and I just want to name that. So I'm assuming connection is okay because no one has texted me. I realize I don't even know if I have my phone on me. I assume Walter will text me actually if my connection is not good. So anyway, so today I wanted to talk about the freedom to be changed. The freedom to be changed. Our Acts reading for this Sunday comes from the second chapter, where all of these people have heard Peter's words and they choose to repent and be baptized. And the freedom to be changed in a lot of ways in our life usually feels like this invitation for our lives to be transformed and be changed and all of that. But yet, wrestling with that right now, because so much of our life has changed, not because we wanted it to. We like change if we choose it, if we initiate it, if we know it's for good. But change, when it comes with unknown, I don't know if many of us would be joyful about it. And I don't know if many of us feel freedom in being changed when we're not sure of what it means. Just to be changed. So I wanted to share a conversation, a made-up conversation I've been having with Julian of Norwich. Julian of Norwich was a English mystic, an anchoress, which is a term, I'm not an expert in this, but essentially means that she committed to be sheltered in place, if you will, sealed in a room for her life in the church. She received revelations and visions from God, and she wrote about it, which is what I got a book recently that I am reading. A lot of her revelations actually came from a near-death experience, which is intriguing. I once wrote a paper in college, I remember, on near-death experiences. Very interesting. But essentially, she was someone who chose to shelter in place for her life. So it's really interesting to read her, because we didn't choose to shelter in place just for the sake of it, and yet we are. And so I'm reading her also with a lot of interest, because she lived through pandemics. There's an airplane ahead of over above. She lived through the plagues. According to who they think she is, her identity is not very known, but they have done some work, and it talks about it at the beginning of this book. They believe that in the first plague, she was probably age 6, and that the last plague wasn't until she was in her 40s. And so here is a woman who lived her life with an awareness of the fragility of humanity, the way we pass things around to each other, the dangerousness of life in some way. It is interesting to actually think of her not as me necessarily connecting with her, but actually as my middle son, Collier, because Collier is 6. Actually, he turns 7 on Sunday, which is a big deal, but he's 6. And to think, okay, if Collier at age 6 is living through his first pandemic, and actually that he will watch a world that could struggle with this into his 40s, what is that? How would that shape him? It would have to. If this is your life that you grew up in, it has to shape you. And so I'm intrigued with her. I'm intrigued with her also because she's an optimist. There's a lot of sorrow in her vision of Jesus, but actually there's a lot of hope in everything. There's this, many of you know her from the quote, all shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. But there's this prayer right here that I read last weekend that really struck me. It was this prayer, which actually the commentator wrote is possibly the most Christian prayer ever to be prayed, which is intriguing. God of thy goodness, give me thyself, for thou art enough to me. And I can ask nothing that is less than can be full honor to thee. And if I ask anything that is less, ever shall I be in want, for only in thee have I all. She has this sense of emptying, that she willingly empties of herself everything. I mean, she empties of herself all of her life in order to be in communion with God. And I read that prayer and I thought, that is such a powerful prayer, but I don't know if I want to pray it. I don't know if I want to pray it. I don't know if I want to empty myself of anything else. I don't know if I want to give up anything else. I think I've given up enough. And yet it kept pulling me back. And so I wrote the conversation in some ways that I would want to have with Julian of Norwich, which I'll read and I can post a link to after this is over. Recognizing that Julian of Norwich chose to empty herself, and I am being asked to empty myself, and in some ways wanting to learn from her. So I'll read it. Julian, when they closed the door to your cell, how aware were you of all you had given up? Did you linger in that last hug with your parents? Did you properly soak in the sights and sounds of all the familiar places, actively storing up memories? When you voluntarily emptied yourself of all you had known of your life, did you grieve like we do? Did you complain like we are? Did you question, regret, rage against your new powerlessness? We are compelled to choose a life of isolation right now. Most of us have accepted healthy at home out of concern for the common good, but some pockets of our nation feel as if they can't live without their freedom. You chose a life of isolation. You emptied yourself of everything, and yet you write as if you're filled with gentleness, compassion, empathy, and freedom. How did you feel that way when you had lived through all you had? Regardless of how we have gotten into this season, here we are, emptied of yesterday's normal and emptying tomorrow's assumptions. Julian, over 6 centuries later, I can see that you found abundant life while sheltering in place. What did you know about freedom that we don't know yet? Give us some hope, please. Now that I've emptied my life to the point it would be unrecognizable to my former self, with what do I fill the hours? I ponder, speculate, and imagine. It's a helpful exercise to expand my mind, but cannot erase the looming uncertainty. The truth of this new life will only reveal itself over time. With what will I fill the months ahead is ultimately a rhetorical question from where I sit today. How do I learn to choose the change when I didn't choose it in the first place? How do I embrace the changed life when I'm not sure I want to love it? How do I allow God to change me when I'm not sure what that change will be? And then I imagine what she says back to me. Carol, I cannot tell you how or with what you will fill your now emptied life. I can only point you towards the one who fills emptied lives. I can tell you that my spiritual visions reveal God to be the one who makes us, loves us, and keeps us. I'll pause to say that it's beautiful. Julian of Norwich names God as the maker, lover, and keeper of us. And it has been kind of rolling around in my head, and the maker, lover, and keeper. I love that. God is the filler of our being. Emptying ourselves before this God is the greatest privilege we could ever embrace. Being a person of faith is not about knowing where you will go, but knowing that you can trust the one who is leading you. This global pandemic is slaying our country's lust for immortality, invincibility, and endless power. We are relearning the fragility of our flesh. We are suffering from freedom's withdrawal, which looks like rage for some and sorrow for others. Our calendars are resting, but our souls can be so restless. Amidst this moment, could it be that God is setting us free? Free to be emptied and yet filled, free to be changed and again converted, free to be mortal and still marked for belonging, to be who we are and at rest in the hands of our maker, lover, and keeper. The freedom to be changed looks like a wild willingness to lose our life. It feels like high-risk trust that God will reveal a new life that is actually still worth living. What if I'm emptied of my life and find the life I always wanted? Do I have permission to do that? And Julian shouts over the centuries and the miles with an enthusiastic and resounding yes. Its volume may be faint, as all voices become a bit muddled through centuries of global change, but you and I both know that whispers can hold as much more power even than loudest voices. Julian's yes sends me down to the river so that I might submerge myself again in the baptismal waters. May I spend today repenting and being redeemed as Julian prays over my drenched body, all shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. I share that today with some honesty that I want to believe all of that, but it is hard for me. It feels like sharing a truth I'm still struggling to embrace, and not one that I embraced last week and I feel really confident in naming. But it's this question of, if I love this new life, if I embrace the coming months and years, which could look terrible in considering the pandemic, but if I have hope that actually these could be the greatest days and months of my life, does that betray my old life? As if I'm glad, as if I wanted this change? I don't know if that makes sense to you. It feels like it makes sense to me. So maybe that's enough for me. But can I still choose to be changed even when I didn't choose it? I think that is the challenge. I was talking with Drew last night, and how, he will go back to work more faster than I will in terms of elective cases. You hear those birds? Elective cases will start before worship starts back. And how he will have to think through, and the hospital system he works through has to think through, like, waiting rooms. You can't have waiting rooms, right? And how do we do all of this? And it's going to be the same for the church. I mean, how are we going to do worship? We're going to have to rethink all of this. And it can feel so much like we don't want to rethink it, because we're not supposed to do church without getting all together in a room, but at the same time, how to still choose to be changed and to trust the God who is changing us. So I share that with you today. Wherever you are, may you find the wild willingness to lose your life in the care of our Maker, Lover, and Keeper, who assures us that all shall be well. Sending you love. Know that if I could be, I would be with you, and that this will have to do for now. I wish you all the best.